All right, today it follows. Spoiler alert, you know the drill. Spoilers will be discussed. That's out of the way. So, you know how there's two tropes? Well, there's like lots of tropes in horror movies that get overused to the point of death, but there are two that come to mind that this movie utilizes fully, and I think it's a little tongue-in-cheek maybe how they do it. Number one, if you have sex, you die. That's a horror movie classic. Like almost like 80% of horror movies, I'm just making up a statistic, but like 80% of horror movies open with like a couple having sex and they get killed by whatever the creature feature is in that film. Well, they go all out with that idea in this one. The second concept that they use is the slow killer. So your Jasons, your Michael Myers, the guys that are lumbering, and you'd think you'd be able to get away with them, but you can't. Well, that's kind of what this thing is. So let's get into it. We got opening scene has this girl freaking out, and she runs out of this house and drives down to the beach, and they find her body on the beach the next day. And it looks like she just like had sex and then like was panicking in her underwear when she's running to her car or whatever, and she drives on the beach, and yeah, they find her on the beach with her leg all fucking broken upside down. Excuse my language. I really gotta stop swearing so much in these. It just it's like Ricky from Trailer Park Boys. It just flows, right? I gotta try to work on that. But anyway, yeah, so she dead on the beach, leg twisted, bent unnatural way. That's the end of it from her. Anyway, we have our main character, who's her name is Jay in the movie. And as soon as I put the movie on, I'm like, how do I know this actress? Like, definitely. Then it clicked. Okay, this is the girl from, I don't know if you watched my review for the movie Bouquet, or however you pronounce it, but that's her. Which is funny because most people, if they watch that movie, they'd be like, where does she come from? Oh, It Follows, but I'm the other way around because I'm special. Anyway, she's in it. And then there's her friends Yara and Paul, and her little sister Kelly, and the neighbor across the street, Greg. Anyway, she has this hot date with her boyfie, or boyfie-to-be, or whatever you want to call it. Some guy she thinks is cute, whatever, I don't know. His name's Hugh. They go to a movie, and they're playing this thing called the change game, where one of you picks a person in the room or whatever, and the person that you would want to change places with, and then the other person has to guess who you picked and why you changed it. I never played that game, but it sounds fun, I guess, for a first date thing. Who would you rather be with? Not me, probably anyone else. Pick one and I'll try to figure out who. But anyway, that's what they play. And they're, a couple rounds go and they're waiting for the movie to start, and she says, what about that girl with her? He picks hers, and he's like, what about that girl with the yellow dress? And she looks, and she's like, who? He's like, right there by the door. And she's like, are you messing with me? And then he gets like petrified, and he's like, okay, we have to leave like right now. She's like, okay. And they go have dinner, and then they go for a little night walk, and they end up making sexy time in the car. And as usually happens on dates when you have sex in a car, he chloroforms her, because that's apparently what you do, right? I'm obviously kidding. But yeah, he does that, and she wakes up tied up under a bridge on a chair, and she's like, what the and he's like, okay, good, you're awake. So I did this so that you would like believe me or whatever. She's like, what are you talking about? Let me go, blah blah blah. He's like, something was after me, and I passed it on to you through sexy time in the car, and it's coming, and I need to make sure this works, and I need you to see it so you believe me. It's coming for you. It's slow, but it's not stupid. You have to like get distance from it, and it can be passed on through sex, and blah blah blah. And obviously she's like, okay, you're just some psycho who like chloroformed me and tied me to a chair, and you don't need to do all this other shit to freak me the hell out. Anyway, then he sees her. He's like, okay, crap. And then he pushes the chair over to the edge under the bridge or whatever, and she sees someone coming. It's some naked woman, and she's just not looking great. And they get the hell out of Dodge, and he explains to her, blah, 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 you have to pass it on and then it will go after that next person. But like, don't let it kill you, because then it'll just come back after me again. And you know, that's the key here, is my safety, obviously. Like, to hell with you, random girl that I seduced, but whatever. Anyway, I guess desperate times call for desperate measures, right? Later in the movie, there's a way better idea to solve this issue, but anyway, we'll get to that when we get to it. So that happens. She doesn't believe him. She's talking to the cops, you know, talking to her friends. She tells her friends everything he said, and then she sees something coming and she freaks out. Ends up escaping it, and she's panicking. She's like, oh crap, there's something to this. And her friends are like, okay. And she's really freaking out. And her buddy Paul, who basically, it's revealed that he's like basically in love with her. They like smooched in high school once or something, and he's been like in love with her since day one, but whatever. He's like, I can stay over if you want. And the sister's like, no. No, you're not doing that, because then she'll be more worried about you sneaking into her room than some creepy thing or whatever. And he's like, no, I'll sleep on the couch. Whatever. Anyway, Jay's like, yeah, maybe you should sleep over. Kelly's like, okay. Anyway, the other friend, Yara, sleeps over too, just, you know, I guess to cock block him, maybe, I don't know. But anyway. Oh, boy. So long story short, she can't sleep. Jay can't sleep, I should say. Goes downstairs to hang out with Paul on the couch, and they're talking about like their first kiss or something. And it's like, okay, like, I don't know why you're talking about that, but whatever. And they're laughing about stuff, and they're like, yeah, you kissed me, and then you kissed my sister. She told me. Like, that's creepy. Anyway, smash. What the hell was that? A rock through the window in the kitchen. Paul's like, okay, I'm gonna go check. He goes in the kitchen, he's like, doesn't come back for a while. She's freaking out. She's like, Paul? He comes back, and it's like, there's nothing there. I'm gonna go get your sister or whatever. I don't know what that would accomplish, but he goes upstairs and leaves Jay alone, which is the one who he's supposed to protect, but whatever. And Jay, being brilliant in the head, you know, smooth reptile brain, she goes into the kitchen, and lo and behold, there's this creepy woman who's like bleeding and pissing herself, and it's like, okay, like, this is obviously the thing. And it's slowly walking right towards her, and so she's panicking. She takes off, and wait, was this before? I can't remember. Whatever. Anyway, at one point she takes off, and they meet up with Greg, and they tell Greg, and he's, yeah, that's what it takes. She fucking bolts it to the park, and then Greg follows in the car, and the friends eventually find her, and then Greg finds her, and they're all chilling or whatever, which is shitty for Greg's date, because he was in his car with some girl, and obviously it was like a romantic moment, and he sees his neighbor running by, and he's like, well, I guess I gotta go follow my neighbor. So that's I feel sorry for that young lady, but that's fine, probably for the best, knowing what happens. So they find her, and she's like, I gotta find Hugh. I gotta figure out, like, he told me some stuff, but I was panicking. He didn't tell me everything, blah, blah, blah. So they're like, okay, that's fine. She knows where he lives, but she's never been to the house because he said he's embarrassed of it. When they get to the house, it's like this rundown, dilapidated house in like a shitty area of town. Yeah, it's rough. All the windows are like newspapered, and there's I don't know if you guys know what a noise trap is, but like when you have on strings like cans and bottles, so if something like hits them, they like make a clank and alert you or whatever. Yeah, so that all by the windows and stuff, and so it's kind of like a little sketchy. I mean, I guess that's his hideout, maybe. Like if it finds him at home, he runs there and whatever. But anyway, her problem now, right? So it doesn't matter. Anyway, they're snooping through the house, and they find like a bunch of like bunch of porno magazines and like balled up Kleenex. It's like, okay, was that necessary to put in the scene? But it's in there, so whatever. Yeah, and then in one of the porn magazines, which Paul is looking at very, very like focused, I guess it's really crucial. Anyway, he's looking through the porn mags, and he sees this photograph of Hugh in some like high school jersey with the high school logo on it, or whatever, the high school football logo or something. Anyway, they figure out what high school he's in. They're like, hey, we gotta go figure out who this actually is. They go to the high school, they find out it's some kid named Jeff, which is right? They find out where he lives somehow. Whatever, sure. And they go to the house, and his mom answers the door, and they're like, then it cuts to them sitting outside on the grass, and he's telling them basically everything he told her before. Like, it's slow. If you like drive somewhere far enough, it'll buy you enough time to think about what you want to do, whether you want to pass it on to someone else and move the curse off of you, at least temporarily, or, you know, if you want to just keep running, or whatever you got to do. Yeah, it'll buy you time, but it's slow. But it'll go right towards you. No matter where on earth you are, it will head in your direction. And if you stay in one place too long, it will eventually find you. And if it kills you, then it comes after me. So you should consider passing it on. You know? Not the ultimate, not my fucking problem. It seems like a you problem. So she's like, I don't know. So that's all she got out of that conversation. But anyway, they pile back into Greg's car and they drive off. And what happens? Oh yeah, Greg's like, okay, so we'll go to like my parents' lake house. They have like a lake cabin or something. So they go there, and it's really chill actually. It looks like a nice place. Sitting around in the sand, having beers, whatever. Good times, you know. It's just this murderous thing that no one knows what the hell it is coming. No big deal. Anyway, it shows up. So that's fun. And chases them into a like a boat shed or a garage or something. Of course, no one can see it except Jay, but everyone's aware it exists because how it revealed itself was grabbed Jay's hair and was like pulling it, and they see her hair lift up, and Paul like swung a chair and the chair broke in midair. So clearly there's something physical there that's doing something. So she's not full of shit. She's actually telling the truth, just they can't see it for whatever reason. Anyway, it like kicks in the door or whatever, and then Greg shows up and he's like, what's going on? And they or no, Paul. Okay, so Greg showed, earlier in the scene, Greg showed Jay how to use a gun. So he has like a pistol or a magnum or something, and he's shooting it with target practice. Anyway, she ends up trying to shoot this thing as it's coming towards the door, but at the same time Greg is trying to come back, and it like, there's bullets flying at Greg because he's behind this thing. He doesn't know where it is, and then he thinks that, I guess, that she's shooting at him, whatever. And yeah, she ends up hitting it right in the head. Boom. And it like stops and like falls. She's like, oh, thank God. And then it gets up because, you know, you can't kill something like this in one of these movies with a gun. Like, guns, temporary problem to a permanent... Temporary solution to a permanent problem, I guess. Sorry. English, right? It's only my first language, so you gotta bear with me here. I think I need some water. Alright, anyway. That out of the way. So it breaks down part of the door, and that's when Greg shows up, and he like, I guess she's done shooting it, so he's like, I don't see anything, what are you doing? Like, and then she takes the frick off as it like crawls through the door. It's like a different person's body because it like changes its shape, I guess, so you don't suspect the same creature all the time. So at this point, it's some weird little rabid, like albino, black-eyed type guy. Anyway, goes through the door, and she basically takes Greg's car and gone. So that's cool. But as she's driving and looking behind her to make sure it's not falling, her truck is backing out of his driveway, and she ends up going off the road into a cornfield. So, you know, replace this sex demon with the children of the corn. You know, you gotta do what you gotta do. No, but anyway, she wakes up in the hospital, broken arm. Shit. All right, well, that means I'm stationary. This ain't good. So she's not really any condition to leave, I guess, at the moment either. So what does she do? She bangs Greg, or lets Greg bang her. So Greg bangs her. Good times all around. Well, for Greg anyway. She's eventually released, and Greg's like, it's been 3 days and I haven't seen it. And her friends and sister are on the front steps, and he goes to see her, and they're like, yeah, she's just in her room. Like, she doesn't want to unlock the door. It's like, okay. And sister's like, I can tell her to call you. It's like, all right. So he doesn't believe that it's there at all. He even says, like, yeah, whatever, something happened, but it's not what she said. There's no way that that's a thing. So he's on the non-believer camp, which, to be fair, like, in reality, if that's the story, even if you see something weird, you're probably not right away going to believe, oh, it's an invisible demon that spreads through intercourse. You're not going to... Well, maybe you would. I don't know. I guess there's more fucked up things in the world that are real than that. But yeah, so that happens. Greg goes home. At night, Jay is looking out the window. I guess she looks out the window every night to make sure Greg's okay. And someone slowly walks up to his house and is banging on the door and tries to open it. It doesn't happen, so grabs a brick, smashes it through Greg's home window and crawls in. And she's like, ah, shit, that's what it is. So she runs over. She's banging on the door, trying to get someone's attention. No dice. Crawls through the window. She can hear this thing banging upstairs or whatever, and she goes up the stairs and she sees, I think it's what's supposed to be his mom. I don't remember what his mom looks like or if they showed her or whatever, but that's what it's supposed to be, but it isn't. It's the thing. And it's banging on the door, and he opens the door and he's like, Mom, what the fuck do you want? And that's when it like jumps him and kills him. And she's like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. And she takes off, obviously. And again, it follows. So that's good times. Yeah. She tries to spread it again by driving off, and then she wakes up and she hears like a party boat with like 3 guys on it, and it shows her walking up to the shore and like stripping down, and it's alluded to the fact that she swam out and banged these guys to try to pass it on to them. But evidently it killed them too because it's back after her again. Good times. You gotta find like the sluttiest person. And I'm not slut shaming. I'm just using it as a term to explain the person who sleeps with the most people the most frequently without issue or judgment from me. I'm just saying, that's what you gotta do. I think that's the easiest way to get it off your back. Oh shit. If you went to an orgy, because like everyone is, that would be brilliant. Oh my god. Okay, yeah, if this thing was real, orgy, that's your best option. But anyway. Getting a little sidetracked. So what happens next? So yeah, he's dead. She's all freaking out. Paul's like, well, why'd you pick him? Why didn't you pick me? I like you too. And she's like, Paul, for fuck's sakes. Like, no, it's just, he didn't believe it. He seemed strong. And then we slept together in high school once anyway. So it was not really a big deal. He's like, oh, all right. But then they do bang. She does bang Paul. So it's like, okay, well, cool, I guess. I mean, that's a little later. I skipped. I think there's like one more creature chase scene. Oh, there's actually a super huge scene that's important to the movie that I just skipped over and revealed that she banged Paul. So sorry. Post already said, spoiler alert. She bangs Paul. Anyway, Paul's like, do you trust me? This is pre-bang. So everything up to me saying they bang again is pre-bang. So he says, do you trust me? And she's like, yeah. And they go break into this pool. And they're setting up all these appliances, you know, toasters, microwaves, TVs, lamps, electric hair dryers. And I guess the plan is to lure it there and electrocute it. Not a horrible plan, I guess. I don't know why you'd think if a bullet can't kill it, electricity might. Maybe it can. I don't know. I don't know how mystical sex demons work. So, you know, I've only dated a couple of them. Sorry. But yeah. So that happens. She goes in the pool. The thing eventually does show up. And she's like, oh god, it's here, it's here, it's here. And they're like, we'll point to it. Like, tell us where it is so we know what's going on. What's it doing? She's like, it's just standing there. It's walking along the edge. And then it starts... I mean, you gotta think that this thing's intelligent, right? So it starts throwing the appliances into the water directly at Jay. Luckily, I guess there's way too much water that she doesn't get electrocuted. But there are still like lamps and TVs and microwaves being thrown at her, so blunt force trauma could easily take her down, probably more so than the electricity in the water. Anyway, that's happening. Okay, how does it... Yeah, at one point they like put a blanket over it. Okay, so Paul has the gun and he's like trying to shoot at it based on her pointing to where it is from in the water. And he ends up shooting Yara accidentally in the leg, so that's pretty clever and pretty good. Anyway, Kelly ends up putting a blanket over its head. and it to reveal where it is, and that's where Paul, like, point blank in the head, boom, thing collapses, falls in the water. Oh shit, Jay's still in the water. We didn't think this through, did we? So Jay's swimming to the edge, and it grabs your leg, and yada yada yada, and so Paul's shooting in the water, trying to hit this thing. Like, bullets are flying right past Jay. Like, if your aim isn't dead on, because the water reflection surface is all wiggly too. So I mean, you're really playing with fire here, or well, water, but whatever. Yeah, they end up shooting it. He shoots it right in the head, and like, it sinks, and she swims out, and she's like against the wall, scared, and they're all like trying to say, like, can you check? Is it there? Like, can you make sure it's gone? And she slowly, like, inches toward the water, and there's like a huge pool of blood in the water. So it's assumed that maybe they killed it. Maybe. Anyway, I'm not sure if it's in celebration or in just, an extra precaution or what it is, but then her and Paul bang. Okay. I guess they're a thing too, perhaps, because later they show like boyfriendy, girlfriendy type stuff or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, the thing that I alluded to at the beginning that I thought was clever, and instead of like picking one random girl to seduce and sleep with to pass on to them, Paul is a clever little guy. He goes driving around the downtown area or the bad area, and it's alluded that either he considered picking up a hooker or he did pick up a hooker, because he drives by and slows down real slow as these two, like, well, hookers are standing there. So if he was smart, yeah, it's illegal, you're gonna go to jail, but like a hooker, that's brilliant. Because like they work, I don't know, I'm not a hooker, but I assume they work like fairly regularly. So this is gonna get passed on like continuously. And the people buying the hookers, maybe they all get killed and they'll start going after the hooker again. But then the hooker by then is probably going to have another business venture where she can pass it on again. So that's brilliant. So I don't know if he does that or not. I tend to think he doesn't, which is unfortunate. Because then at the end of the movie, they see them, it shows them walking down the sidewalk on the street, and it's like it's like I don't know if it's like the blue hour, but it's just nice, very beautiful shot. The lighting's nice, you hear birds. I think it's like super early morning or something. They're just walking, holding hands, all content, and then it zooms out a bit and you see a human figure behind them slowly walking behind them, and then the credits roll. So I don't think he banged the hooker. I think he thought, oh, love conquers all, or maybe I shot it, or whatever his little stupid in love brain thought, but it was following, because it follows, and that's the title of the movie. That's the title. No, I know. But anyway, that's the movie. One thing I have to say about this movie that I loved is the music. The soundtrack slaps. It is good. It's really like synthy, but it is so on point to set the mood of the scenes that it I don't know, whoever did the music absolutely nailed it. So major props to them for that. The movie itself, however, how did I feel about it? It was neat. It was a fun little idea, and I think it was done pretty decently. Everyone's acting was okay. Yeah, no real issues. But that music, man, like if I had to rate the music on a 10 scale, I mean, well, I wouldn't, because I have to rate the whole movie. But taking into account the music, I'm going to try to make it not count for much on my vote. So I will give this one 6.02. No, that's too low. 6.66. There we go. 6.66. The number of the beast. Okay, so that's what I'm giving it. Enjoyable. It's not like a super serious movie, but the music makes it serious enough that it's still tense. Like, it's intense. There's tension when you're watching it. You're like kind of like, oh fuck, that music just nails it. The the visuals of it, whatever it is, and its various different human forms. Like there's one where like it's a really tall guy with like no eyes or something. Like they're all cool. They're all done well, but they're not like really that scary. But that music really sets it and makes you like, oh no, on edge a little bit. So yeah, again, great. Yeah, so 6.66. It follows. Check it out.